Hello, my name is Farrell D. Moore, and I'm your host for this episode of. And if we summarize what we have learned and prepare to meet another of the dragons of creative writing, the dragon of separation. According to alchemist Dennis William Hoke in his The Complete Idiot's Guide to Alchemy, separation on the psychological level is the rediscovery and isolation of your essence or true self. Separation requires decisive action. The process involves cutting into the heart of the subject of the work at this stage to reveal the deepest essences of soul and spirit. He further explains that personal separation requires a certain amount of objectivity and honesty about your strengths and faults and what is worth salvaging from your old personality. Dissecting and discarding what is no longer relevant or useful is an important role of the separation process. The goal of separation is to preserve what is genuine by removing it from contaminating influences and keeping it safe for further alchemical transformation. This stage is about getting beyond the restraints to your true nature so that the real you can shine through. Before we continue our tale, where we journey to meet the dragon of separation, we need to think this through. It's important to grasp the concept of what this means to us as writers. You've come this far with me, and I hope you have by now at least an intuitive grasp of where this approach to creativity and writing is taking us. In this series, I'm making the point that most writers should concentrate on themselves first and then their writing, because it is from themselves that their writing flows. With that said, the question to be considered is, what does a third alchemical process have to do with creativity? The first alchemical process, calcination, burned away many elements of our everyday selves that can impede our creative process, with a special emphasis on our everyday selves. The second process dissolved and washed away the residuals of the first process, allowing creative imagery to well up within us. The third alchemical process involves cutting away at our personal reality. We start within and work outward. This differs somewhat from most traditional approaches to the study of writing. The idea we are exploring is that who we are, shapes our reality and thus our stories. We tend to see things based on our views, which is not necessarily the way they are at all. If this is indeed the case, then in theory, our reality, our worldview, should drastically change after we have undergone the first two alchemical processes. That would be more or less the case if it were not for a powerful internal force that is with us the rest of our lives. Most writers, including myself, easily underestimate the strength of this force. To make the matter more complicated, most elements of our personality, both before and after we have absorbed the lessons of the first two dragons, are forces that can build us or destroy us depending on how they are applied. But the force we are discussing grows in strength nearly every day of our lives. What is this incredible weapon or tool? What is it called? Its name is habit. When we look both ways before crossing the street, this is a good application of habit. When we continually look at the world and the people who inhabit it the same way, regardless of new facts or perspectives, then we are discussing habit as a negative force. At this stage, an important aspect of the teaching of the third dragon of creative writing is to learn to do battle with our habits. By attempting to gain control over our habits, to increase our creativity and improve our writings, we are taking control of ourselves. There is another reason for this battle, but that will show itself later in the quest. Sometimes it is so much easier to make changes in our worldviews than it is to maintain them. Smokers know this well. It is so much easier for them to realize and accept that smoking is bad for them than to quit. They sometimes make plan after plan to quit, only to be drawn back to the deadly habit. Some quit for 1 day, 2 days, even a week, then slide back or are pulled back into smoking by the sheer force of habit. How does this relate to us as writers? I will share with you a moment from my own past that I hope will illustrate the point. When I left home at 16 to seek out and learn from Ayn Rand, I left everything behind and risked much to study the writing of larger-than-life ideas entwined with grand plots and larger-than-life characters. I left with little money, no serious plan, but a wonderful goal. Although I only spent several minutes of time with Miss Rand and her inner circle, I emptied wastebaskets and did janitorial work at the Objectivist Institute to earn money to eat. My experiences along the way were both gritty and revelatory. I saw life for the first time. I saw and felt hunger, saw poverty and experienced it, saw violence and suffered it. What I saw and lived was the stuff of writers' dreams. I saw my first ghost, experienced dreams and visions, nearly died but endured through no effort of my own except the benevolence of heaven. Before I returned, I was blessed with the visitation of 3 people who disappeared before my eyes and was enraptured by an epiphany of who I was and what I should do. But when I was returned home, a story in itself, the habits that were my life took over again, and my understandings and new conceptions were eroded by entrenched behaviors and patterns that established control of me again by wearing me down as wind and rain eventually wear down the tallest mountains. I wrote little, and what I did write was not inspiring. The lesson is that as writers exploring ourselves in the origins and potentialities of our creativity, we are still vulnerable to that powerful force that will reassert control of us. We will still labor, we will still write, but we will not write to our full potential. We will have been worn down by habit. Eventually, our old identity will become us. But I believe that there is a great writer dormant inside of us that we must fight for, which is worth the battle. What weapons have we, though, to defend ourselves in our quest to write the simple visions inside us that portray and explain the grandness of the human family? Join me, if you will, for the next episode, where we will learn the meaning of the sword held by the magnificent dragon of separation. It is a fine, beautiful weapon that he holds only to pass to each writer who confronts him and learns his lesson. Come with me, then, a little further and meet face to face with the dragon of separation. Now, that's all today. Join us again next week for another episode of Write. Until then, keep writing.